I enjoy what I do. It's not a chore to me. I love when I'm busy. And so that's kind of where that stems from, is wanting more and more and more to keep doing it, is because I truly enjoy what I do.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest is a top producing real estate professional who has been making an impact in North Florida's real estate market for nearly 20 years. She's trusted advisor for buyers, sellers, and investors, delivering exceptional service, expert market insights, and top-tier negotiation strategies. Her dedication to communication, marketing, and personalized service has earned her recognition as a top producer and feature in the Jacksonville Business Journal's residential real estate list. Whether it's finding the perfect home, maximizing a seller's return, or identifying smart investment opportunity, she goes above and beyond to ensure seamless, stress-free experience. So let's welcome from Realty One Group Elevate, Jena Perez.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming on this morning.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, get a little colder out here. Hopefully it's supposed to get a little more milder, they say, this weekend. So hopefully.
I am not a fan. Florida needs to get it together.
I'm ready to get back out in the boat.
Yes.
You know,
I'm a sun baby.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really interested in talking to you about, 20 years in. Mm-hmm. I've had other agents on. I wrote some of the best shows I have is some agents that have, really been through the changes of seasons.
Yes.
We could talk about the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, there was a change of season, obviously interest rates going up, inflationary issues and so forth. But really, when you go back, a lot of you've already had some experience, but then you get hit in 2008 and really set back. And then we'll talk about the grit about it. So I'm really interested in your stories to share with some of these agents, because I think many of the agents that we have, I don't know I'm going to guess the average real estate agent's experience right now is, I don't know, maybe 5 years, maybe something like that. But it might even be less than that. You're a unicorn, in that area. But to understand, they really need to look long term.
Yes.
And, I'm sure you've fallen on your face a couple of times. Absolutely. And survive. And your advice today might help them project themselves for the next 15, 20 years that they're in their career.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to love what you do, and you're going to have your ups and downs. And when I started in Georgia, and so I moved to Jacksonville in 2010, whole different market. I don't know the area. I don't know what's going on. So I ended up getting with a top producing agent at Keller Williams and doing administrative work for him until I got to know the area and felt comfortable. But even then, I definitely had some struggles, and I was like, maybe I should get out of real estate. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should go become a nurse. But it's what I truly enjoy doing and loving it. And so you have to take the ups and downs of it and keep pushing through it.
Yeah. I'm going to take a real commercial break before I forget, because I always remember Remy Graphics makes these laser engraved mugs. You have a nice hot pink one in your bag there for you, but they make these nice laser engraved gifts. This is just one item that they have, but they made a ton of laser engraved gifts. And I always tell people they will do one-offs. So if you want a housewarming, a closing gift, and you put their name on it, so they'll never throw it away, and they'll always remember where it came from. Remy Graphics, RemyGraphics.com. I always like to kick off the show because I want people to resonate. As I said, you came from Atlanta. Debbie Tufts came from Atlanta.
They were good friends of ours.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so my parents and the Tufts team, we were in the same office, but they were always 1 and 2 competitors.
Producing agents in that office. A small world there. Okay, all right. So tell us a little, growing up in Atlanta, what was Jena's initial, what were you dreaming of doing? Because I don't know how many people dream of being a real estate agent at 18, 19 years old.
So that's actually a great question. I don't think I ever grew up thinking that I would go into real estate. The way I got into it is both my parents worked for corporate America. They were with MCI WorldCom. It tanked. My mom lost her job first, so she got her real estate license, and she enjoyed it, but She did not enjoy making phone calls, calling expireds, FSBOs, that part of it. So
'Cause we're probably talking latter 90s area,
yeah,
2000.
it was like the early 2000s, I would say, because I graduated in 2003. So it was probably like 2000, 2001. So my dad ended up getting his license, and he killed it. He was the FSBO king. And so as I graduated high school, they hired me on as their admin. So I did all their administrative work, everything like that.
Oh, great
for
experience.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it allowed the flexibility for me. I was still working in the restaurant industry at the time. So I worked for them during the day, and then I would go serve.
If you've
at
never
night.
worked in a restaurant, you've never worked.
This is true. I literally still, just like 2 nights ago, had a dream.
Flashback.
Yes, that I'm serving and I forget the ranch. I forgot, like it still comes to me today. But so then when I turned 20, I got licensed in Georgia and became their buyer's agent. And so I did that, and it's just kind of how I fell into it. I always have enjoyed it. I love the customer experience, working one-on-one. I love the flexibility of it's not a 9 to 5. The negative is the inconsistency of income, but you just have to keep building upon it to make sure that you're set up for success.
Yeah. And I think that's important because I think a lot of people this past year, I mean, nationally record low sales. I think the leader of Florida Homes did a video the other day. He actually posted it out there talking about the record low sales in 24. Yet, I'm looking at the Jacksonville producers numbers. Although they're slightly down, I expected them to be a couple $1 million less than actually where the cutoff was for the top 500.
Right.
So I was a little surprised. But I think we're in a Jacksonville or Northeast Florida. We're in a very unique pocket because we're in Florida.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle, we like boating in the beach and that sort of thing. And there's still a demand. And Jacksonville's bringing in decent financial, white collar jobs to afford the homes. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So you walk into real estate.
Yeah.
What are some of the initial observations you remember making? I mean, you're working admin, you're seeing these things. I mean, because I think you truly get to, well, you probably understood early, like every transaction is different, and even still today.
Still today. And 20 years into it, I literally just had this conversation. I'm negotiating a deal last week with the agent. And I said, I've been in it 20 years and I still learn something every transaction because no two are the same. And different things come up and different situations come up and you don't necessarily plan for them. So I am constantly learning and changing the way that I do things to try to make it a better experience for my customers.
When do you actually, so how many years or how long you were working admin for mom and dad? So you're transaction coordinating and all that kind of stuff from them. Did you feel when you finally, made the leap to actually be a full-time agent, having some of that experience really, especially as a young person, which most people at 18, 19 years old don't even know how to spell mortgage, right? Let alone realtor, right? Realtor. But that experience when you made the leap, did it give you a kind of a little bump in confidence? I mean, was it a hard break to make that decision?
It was definitely a hard break because I was getting paid hourly. So I knew what I was going to be bringing in. And then when I kind of got put out there as a buyer's agent, I definitely had some hesitation. I was nervous. I was young. People are like, she's young. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Do you own your own house yet? You don't own a house.
And I see that stuff on Facebook all the time. Like in the mastermind groups, like if you're an agent, you don't even own a house, you shouldn't be in the business. Well, that's not true because I started young. Of course, I'm not going to own a house at 18, 19, 20.
Right.
But I did have that hesitation because I felt like people didn't trust me because I was young. But I just kind of had to go in it and do it. And once you start talking, my dad's always said it's not how you dress or, how you approach this, the words that come out of your mouth. And if you're educated and you know what you're talking about, then people are going to trust you.
Right.
And I was educated in the real estate market and I knew what I was talking about. And so I just started building rapport and then that's kind of how it took off.
So if we sent you to one of the local high schools today to talk about, hey, real estate as a career, because I guarantee we can go, now UNF offers a course, right?
Yeah.
But I think I would bet, and I don't know any statistics, don't know anything about the class. I think I have some ideas of who's teaching them over there, as we talked about the Tufts. And so And I wonder what the average age of the person, are they really truly getting freshmen and sophomores,
Right.
18, 19, 20 years old in college, actually going and saying, I want that to be my major?
Yeah.
Or are these people more adults who are going back later in their life, maybe 25 or older, that have some life experience, say, hey, real estate, I'm going to go get a degree in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know that too. I guess I've never really thought about it, but I wonder if people just come out of high school or in college and think this is what they want to do, or if they're like me and they were kind of put into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like have family that's done it, or if that's something somebody just has a passion for.
Yeah. Well, the unique experience that you had is you kind of got your college credits by working with mom and dad.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to work with my dad closely, especially basically through high school and into college. You know, we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. As we get later in life, you have respect for that.
Yeah.
But if we sent you to one of the high schools today and said, hey, Jena, go in and talk to this group of juniors or seniors, whatever, about thinking about a career in real estate. What are some of the things you might tell them?
I would love it. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe people just don't understand, but that is something that I would love to do and tell them that it is a great career. And it's funny because when I was younger, my dad made me read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He was all about college. You have to go to college. You have to do this. Or he was about college, and then we read the book, and then he's like, never mind. You don't need to go to college. This is what I want you to do. And I think that people just, I lost my train of thought of talking to them.
Yeah. Well, I sent your mind spinning there.
Yeah. So, yeah. But you think you have to go to college to have this great career or this great income. And I think there's great opportunity in real estate. And I think it is something that people should look more into. And, you know, I've talked to Tanya about this before, is I love helping other realtors. I always want to mentor. When I see people post on Facebook, hey, I'm looking into getting into real estate, you know, can you help me? I'm always the first one to message them and help them and say, hey, let me help you, let me guide you. I don't see them as my competitors. I feel like there's plenty of people out there, and there's enough for all of us, and we can all help and make a difference. But I would highly encourage people to do it, because I think I just find joy in it. I love helping customers. I love building the rapport with them. I love staying in touch with them. I also love the freedom. I like that I can work from home. I can be at all my kids' events, and I also make a good income. So like, it all just kind of pulls together. And
well, I think college has become, I mean, unless you're getting a, you know, engineer, they need to go to college. The lawyers, they need a level, even with their undergrad, to be mature enough to go on, become, you know, the 3 years of law school.
Yeah.
It's a maturity period of time. What did you mentioned earlier that initial customers, you know, you're looking at you at 20, 21 years old, you're representing them, you don't even own your own house yet, but there had to be some sort of maturity thing there. And obviously some people mature faster than others or earlier for whatever reason, how they're brought up and so forth. What do you think were some of the things? I mean, you know, you talked about, you know, your dad said it's not it's what you say, right? And a lot of that actually is maturity there. But imagine as a 21-year-old, you wanted to, I don't want to say dress to impress, but but look like you had your stuff in a pile. You know, tell us about how'd you know, if you can grasp them, if you're talking to those teenagers in high school, that real estate's a great track, but there is a maturity part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely have to, one, be educated on what you're talking about, be responsible enough, because you're handling a huge financial decision for somebody and guiding them into it. And you have to take it seriously, and you have to be consistent, especially in this industry. You know, we work for ourselves, so you have to be willing to show up every day. You don't have anybody holding you accountable. So you definitely have to be responsible enough to know that if you want to do this, you have to put your all into it, and you're your own boss. And so you have to have that level of responsibility, or you're not going to make it.
And I think a lot of, well, I wouldn't even say it's just young people. There's this also thing where it's like, hey, I'm going to go away this weekend with my friends and go goof off in Disney World or whatever. And then all of a sudden you get a call and someone wants to list their house, and you need to do an open house this weekend.
Yeah.
Disney's off.
Yep.
And that maturity to say, as we know, a lot of teenagers, and it's not only teenagers, it's just people out there that will just call work and say, I'm sick.
Yep.
I can't make it. And it's not because they're sick, it's because they're going to Disney World.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely can't do that. So you have to be able to show up and handle your responsibilities.
Right. I think that's probably one of the, is picking up the phone. Everyone always says picking up the phone, but also that the other thing, say, hey, I got to put some of this other stuff aside.
Or leverage it out, So I like to go on vacations. I like to do things with my kids. My daughter was in competitive cheer for 5 years, so most weekends I was not around.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to build a system around you to be able to leverage out business if you want to be able to do those things. But you also have to have a sustainable business to be able to compensate for having
your time
leverage.
Tell us a little bit, since we're on that subject, talk about, because I think this is one of the challenges a lot of agents have, is the ability to trust, rely on other people. And what have you found in 20 years, 2 decades doing this? What have you found? Because you like to take vacations.
I do.
What is the key to giving you some sort of peace of mind? Like maybe you want to go on a cruise where you're not going to have your phone available all the time.
So I actually just went on a cruise, but it was very difficult for me at first. I like to do things my way. I have my systems, but one of the things when I was doing admin work for my parents is they made me put together a notebook of what I do every day and the tasks and how I do it, so that when I did leave them and when they brought somebody new on,
you had systems.
They had systems.
Yeah.
And so I think that is important. I actually hired my sister as my transaction coordinator 3 years ago. And so I think it has to be people that you trust and are like-minded to be able to do that. So like when I went on a cruise a couple weeks ago, my sister does not work for me any longer, but not consistently, but she's still around. So I brought her back in and said, hey, I'm going on a cruise.
Is she licensed?
What I have going on.
No. Okay.
So she just did, the paperwork, transaction stuff. She never talked to clients or showed properties. And then I reached out to agents in my office and said, hey, I'm going on a cruise. I don't know what my internet's going to be like. Is anybody willing to help me in case I need somebody in town for something? And of course I had 10, 15 of them reach out to me and say, we've got you. And so it took a long time to be able to rely on anybody else. But once you kind of get those people in, you keep them close. And
well, looking back and these situations over time that you've had people take your call for you because you weren't available, you were out of country, whatever it was. I mean, what have you found?
I guess it's always just.
Have you had a horror story?
No. And I think it's more though, because I don't think I've ever completely disconnected, ever. We used to go to Mexico twice a year. I worked the whole time. When I was on my cruise, I bought the internet package, so I was still involved and worked the whole time. When I had my son, literally an hour after I gave birth, I had my laptop on my lap and I was working. So I don't think that I've ever truly disconnected.
Real estate's a good career for workaholics.
Yes. I like to stay busy.
Yeah. We enjoy, and whether it's on the real estate side or the lending side, we enjoy the game. And sometimes the game is at 7:00 at night.
Yep.
It's just the way it works.
That is
you maybe have nothing, no one call you all day long, and then all of a sudden 6:00 comes around and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing off the hook.
Happened to me last weekend. I'm like, there was nothing all day, and now it's 7:00 on a Friday, and my phone is, everybody wants an update. Everybody wants to know what's going on. And I'm like, 7:00 on a Friday. Like, I just want to go to have a drink. But you do what you do. So
talk about, in your case, you're a little different than, and obviously I couldn't read this through your LinkedIn, obviously your whole relationship by entering the business through your parents. And then, you had, and your dad was successful at it. So obviously you looked up to him in a way, but having that mentor that he was for you. Now, not everyone has their dad or, a direct relative to mentor them, but the importance of latching on to someone who could play, in your case, your dad figure, for new agents that might be listening or someone who's out there maybe struggling right now, to latch on to somebody who is like you, willing to pour back into them, their knowledge, but searching out these people. and how it's changed your career.
So like I said, when I see stuff on Facebook of people wanting to get into the business, I'm always reaching out to them and I tell them my experience and how I started. And I always offer that as a suggestion. Like, if you're not comfortable and ready to jump in, then find an agent who needs help and learn the backside of it. Learn the transaction part, the paperwork part of it, until you get comfortable enough to go out and do it.
Right.
Do it yourself. So search for top agents, go to brokerages, find out who is selling, who is producing, and who needs help, and see if they're willing to take you on either under their wing and do like an internship, or if they're willing to pay you X amount an hour to kind of help them out, so you can figure out what the real estate, what it's about before jumping in. Because in your pre-license and all that stuff, they teach you the laws and the things, but they don't actually teach you how to.
The rubber, I call it the rubber meets the road. They don't actually go to that far with it. Yeah. Because those positions are fluid. They come open all the time.
Absolutely.
People are moving in and out, or, transaction coordinators want to graduate on them and become an agent.
Yep.
Now, I always say if I'm an agent and I want to hire a transaction coordinator, I'd really love one that just loves being a transaction coordinator, doesn't have any interest in actually going face to face with customers, doesn't mind calling them on the phone and saying, hey, I need this, or hey, here's the update. But they just like being in a cube.
Yeah.
They like being at the desk and in front of their computer, and that's just their jam. Yeah.
Well, that's how I initially started, because that's what I enjoyed. I like paperwork. I like data entry. I like math. I like the behind the scenes. So I was very comfortable there until I started branching out, and as I got older and more mature, and then I enjoyed building those relationships with people, and the majority of my customers are my forever friends and family.
Right.
And so now I look forward more to that than the paperwork.
It's loving the process.
Yes.
What you don't follow the money, so to speak. There's a Quicken Loans ism is what they call it, or rocket now, rocketism, about following the money. If you love the process, you'll get the closings, and then obviously get the check. That will just naturally come. But if you don't love the process, you're not going to have a lot of closings. So, especially from the marketing standpoint. But looking back to kind of summarize this portion of the show, you've met a lot of real estate agents. You've seen them come and go over time. What would be something, maybe one or two things that you think of? If you look back at all the agents that you've seen come and go, because we know 80% drop out, don't even renew the license in the first year, which many of them could have dropped out in the first few weeks. If you were to go back in time and help them restart their career, what are a couple of things that they need to maybe they need to know, and some of the things they may need to do to get off on a better first step?
I think people get very discouraged when it's slow. And I can say that I have been through that process where I am busy, and then all of a sudden I have 3 months of nothing, and then I'm going, do I need to stay in this business? I have a mortgage to pay. I have kids to take care of. I have a car payment. I need consistent income. And so you do second guess yourself. But I think at the end of the day, if you want it, go get it. And you don't give up and you keep pushing through. My biggest advice to any real estate agent is stay in touch with your past clients and stay in touch with your sphere. I will swear up and down to that all day long. There is no reason to pay for leads that may or may not work out. If you love on your people and don't be a secret agent, the business will come to you. But you have to be good to people and let people know what you're doing to stay into it. And I think a lot of new agents too are scared of that. They don't want to reach out to their friends. They feel like they're a bother, and they just don't want to touch the people around them. And so then they get they expect business to come to them. Right. When
here's my business card, call me.
And they think, they don't realize that you're starting your own business, that you're getting your license and all of a sudden your phone's going to ring and somebody wants to buy or sell a house. And then they get discouraged and then they drop out, and that's not the process. Like, you have to market yourself and realize that you're not a bother. People want to know. Well, I think that
the ability to reach out to your friends and family, there's some people that have had corporate careers for 20 years and gone into real estate and just blown up.
Yeah.
And they just had this air about them, their confidence, this aurora around them, that everyone knew that, hey, if I need anything done, let alone real estate, I want to call that person because I know they get things done. And whether they were doing corporate America, they got things done over there.
Yeah.
Now they're in real estate, they're going to get things done. I'm going to call them.
Yeah.
And they built that that persona was out there of them.
And even if you don't have that, like, again, when you're reaching out to your family and your friends, it's about genuine connection, and it's not always about real estate, but letting them know that you're a resource for anything. You know, hey, when people are posting, I need a lawn guy or I need a HVAC guy, like, hey, you can call me. I've got all those people for you.
Right.
And reminding them constantly that you're not just in the sales portion, that you're here for them for whatever you can help them with.
Well,
be genuine about
I
it.
have said numerous times, and we were talking about young people getting involved in real estate, but this subject too is being the concierge of the community.
Yeah.
Housing is a huge part of our economy. And if housing is rolling and people are moving, there's a lot of services being involved, appliances being made, and all this stuff is going on. And the real estate agent is smack dab in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
You're the transaction coordinator of the housing industry.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't actually, when they look at it, don't actually see that.
Right.
But when you really start looking at what's going on, who is making these things happen and happen at, if we didn't have real estate agents, you could, I guess, go on the internet, look at houses and, assuming all those other things that you and I know that go awry, like, you were selling a shirt, right? Okay. You go to Walmart, you buy a shirt. Okay.
Yeah.
Real estate can never be like that because every property is different problems. We got termites, we've got whatever, right? Title issues, all that stuff. If everything was just cookie cutter like a t-shirt, you could do that. But the real estate agent is the one who's the catalyst to the transaction. You're the one fighting through all those things to iron out and get the closing in 30 days.
Right.
Where you might take 3 minutes to buy the shirt, 30 days to buy a home. There's a lot of people involved, and it's the real estate agent that's in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a huge misconception with real estate agents because you see it all the time. They're like, you don't need them. Oh, you just get this big fat commission check and you showed 2 houses. You show a house and you get paid. Yeah, that's not at all. That's not.
When we're really lucky.
It doesn't work.
2020, that might have happened.
Yeah, I even brought my girlfriend with me the other day. I was putting up a new listing, so I had to go put the sign and lock box out and do some things. And when I get over there was, all the other things I needed to do. And she looked at me and she's like, you do all this stuff too? And it's like, this is like 1%. Yes, of all the things that happen. She's like, I guess I just didn't realize all the extra little things that you do in between all the things. And so I think there is a misconception of that we get paid way too much.
Right.
All we do is show a house, but there is so much more to it.
Yeah, well, I think that's why, what do they say? Like 1% of the agents actually make the majority of the money. Or, I think the statistic was out the other day. It was 74% of licensed agents actually, did not sell a home last year. And, so people look at that and people say they're real estate agents, but the reason, one of the, things that we talk about here on the show or that are expressed like you just did there, all the extra little things you do to be in the 1% that are making the money that, people go, they see on HGTV or Bravo or whatever, those guys are in the 1% because they may be wearing that real fancy suit or really nice dress while they're doing their little thing on Bravo. But I guarantee you they're in their boxers or in sweats or whatever. They're at home. They're on that, or they're out picking weeds. They're out cleaning out garages because the seller just left and left the place trashed or, all those things. But yeah, people never see that stuff.
Yeah, no, they don't.
And that's why agents make the money they make, because most people will say like, I'm not going to touch that. Someone else's trash. Well, agents are putting on their rubber gloves and getting in there.
You have to do all the things. Even so, this listing that I went and took her on, I was mopping the floors. I wiped down all the walls. I changed the lockout on the front door. And she's like, well, are they paying you to do that? And I'm like, no, is it it's just
well, they are.
Well, yeah, I'm going to get a commission at the end of the day. They're repeat customers.
Right.
And so I don't mind doing the things that need to be done to make it easier for everybody and get the home sold. So
I think the break is because obviously we have different minds. People have different minds. It's just how they were brought up.
Yeah.
And that, you're willing to put off the success because one, you love the process, but you know those little things that you were doing, and then who knows, maybe the deal falls through and you don't get paid on that one.
Right.
But your reputation, you are your brand.
Yes.
And when you're out there in, I'm sure you got your hair up, a t-shirt on and jeans, and you're sweating out there in August doing these things, people actually see that.
Yeah.
And that's really what makes you a great real estate agent.
Yeah. I think it definitely makes a difference of, are you just showing up, getting the paperwork signed, putting in MLS and whatever. It's all the little things in between and making it personal and establishing that relationship with people. And that's how you get repeat business or referrals from them,
right?
Is doing all the extra little things.
Let's drill in, because you mentioned one of the important things that is staying with your sphere of past clients.
Yes.
Okay. Is that something you noticed your dad doing and you caught on early, or you failed for a while before you realized this is the ticket?
For a while. So this is probably something that I started doing maybe like 8 years ago. I figured it out. And I think it's because, like, MLM stuff, right? Like, it was, like, huge. All your friends are selling all the things. And somebody from high school's messaging me, hey, Jena, how are you? Da, 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 da. I'm selling this. Do you want to buy it? Like, you haven't reached out to me ever.
Right.
And now you want to be my friend because you're selling something, right? But then you, like, want to be supportive, so you buy it. And guess what? Then they never talk to you again, right? And now you're set up on this monthly thing and you're paying this money. And then eventually you cancel it because, like, why am I supporting this person? There's nothing.
For a product that you don't use anymore or didn't like.
So I think that's kind of like when it registered with me is you can't do that. You can't close a deal and then never talk to them again. And then when business is slow, reach out and be like, oh, hey, by the way, how are you? You know anybody looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate?
It's slow now. I have time to call you.
You just can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of when it hit me was I need to regularly be in contact with my past clients and my sphere and letting them know that I'm here, whether I'm busy or slow all the time. Birthday cards, anniversary cards. I look on Facebook every day. If somebody's got a kid graduating or their pet died, you send something, you reach out, the personal touches, and truly stay genuinely involved with people. And then when they know of somebody, they're gonna think of you. So it turned my business around completely. Right. I would say 90% of my business in the past 5 years is from sphere past clients referrals.
Well, I mean, anyone listening right now, if you're just listening to Jena's show and you haven't listened to any of the other podcasts, you will find this is obvious. This is a linchpin to great real estate agents. Yes. Every one of them that I've had on the show that is doing any amount of volume and has been doing it for any period of time is going to tell you what you just told me.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that even in your initial, new agent orientations and so forth, that people who they have come up and speak do not mention this in some sort of way, shape, or form. Yeah. And if you're, I think we all in life sometimes have to hear something numerous times. We read personal development books and they're saying, hey, do this, time block or whatever it is, right? And we hear it and like, I'll do that. Maybe I'll get around to it. But really, this is a cornerstone to having a long, fruitful real estate career.
And there was a time, I went through some things. I had a very bad car accident that set me back. And then I went through a divorce and I shut down and I was not doing the things that I needed to do. I was not sending out my cards to my sphere and my friends. My business tanked. I had a bad year.
Yeah.
And then I was like, get out of this funk and get back together and start doing what you're supposed to be doing and get those monthly emails out, notes, cards, or whatever, and then it picked back up.
Yep.
So, but you
now
have
it's
to
a
be
staple.
Consistent with it. Yeah, you have to be consistent.
You were doing it, stop doing it, realize what it did to your business, and then obviously now you're like,
can't drop the ball on this one.
Because I think sometimes like social media. I've had some people were talking and where an agent came up to him and said, I don't think social media works. Okay, well, just stop doing social media and then see what happens. And then you could truly measure, which you just did. You measured it. Oh, yeah. You had a direct.
100%. I would mail out newsletters. And so it's got the newsletter on the front, and then on the back I would put information or an activity or something, it was pretty tedious.
You were actually mailing.
Yeah, I was actually mailing them. And then when I had stopped, I was like, you know what, I need to get back doing the newsletters. But then I realized I'm going to send it out as a text message, just a picture. Because people aren't going to check their email. They see it.
You're texting the PDF?
So I just text a picture of the PDF now of the newsletter. And literally once I started doing that, first month that I went out, I got 4 referrals.
Wow. Yeah, I could, a lot of times if you send out a text message, some people feel they need to respond, which I mean, sometimes that might be overwhelming.
Yeah, just once a month, they get a little picture with a little newsletter. And yeah, the first month I got 4 referrals.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's drill down on some of the things that you're doing in this space. And don't be afraid to share with us some of the things that you found that at least didn't work for you. Because I imagine you've discovered, and I think everyone who's doing their touches with their sphere or past clients are doing it in their own personality, what they like to do, whether it's a newsletter or whatever. So go through some of the things that worked for you and maybe some of the things that didn't work for you.
Well, that definitely worked for me. My clients like that. I did do Lolo gifts. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
That did not work for me.
Yep.
I did it for a year. I probably had the one same person who would always redeem the item, but it never brought me any business or referrals. Yeah, it kept me in front of people, but I never saw a return in it. I'd say the things that worked for me the most are birthday cards. I always do home anniversary gifts too. Just send them a little something from Amazon, whether it's a candle or like a garden stone, something that's personal to them that they're going to keep. It doesn't necessarily have my information on it.
Right.
But if they walk past that garden stone every day, they're going to be like, oh, my realtor gave that to me.
Right.
So I think it's just the little personal touches. Again, the stuff on Facebook. I had a past client who was diagnosed with cancer. And so I sent a cute little, like a spa gift basket, some stuff for her to relax. And I think those are the things that work, is just...
How'd you find that out?
On Facebook.
Oh, yeah. So trolling Facebook and keeping active. I know that, there's some different tactics on Facebook, like forming your own little group. Is beneficial if you're actively like working the group and getting people to interact there. But obviously you find out little information that gives you the opportunity to throw that something special their way.
Yeah. Yes. That. And then I like to do 2 to 3 times a year. It's a little time consuming, but they like it. Like last year for Easter, I made candy tins and wrapped it up like a lollipop and put bunny ears on it, and I went and stuck it in all my past clients' yards.
Yeah, that's an assembly line.
Yeah, it was a lot. But then on the back, too, I put on there, enter to win a $50 Amazon gift card if you post it on Facebook and tag me. Right? So they got a little gift. I got some exposure, and stuff like that works, too. So I like to do little contests. A
little call to action.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Because I think we, in sales, all sales, we're told to, continue this contact. And I think it's kind of like dating and, hey, did they like me or not? That type of thing. Should I reach out to them? Will I be bothering them, as you mentioned earlier? Will I be harassing my friends if I, just touch base? But you can do that suddenly, like sending out the newsletter, including your friends who not past clients yet anyway, but they still might be a referral base, just to keep reminding them, you're in the business.
Yes. And so the newsletter definitely goes out to my whole sphere. I mean, even my dad.
Yeah.
Like, who clearly knows I'm an agent. But even like, I sold him his townhouse, and I still send him everything that I send everybody else, because you just include everybody and make sure everybody knows. And
would you agree, over the years, you've got a good substantial list, which, like you're saying, putting all those Easter things together was a chore, but it has paid off. Yeah. So, that agent who might be in their first year, who may not even, maybe they've got a couple of sales, and you don't want to be like pounding your 3 clients every other day. But what would you say some creative ways maybe you've seen other people do, because you were only a agent first year, 1 year, 19 years ago, but some creative ways for them to reach out to their friends, families, associates, past coworkers, whatever it is, their sphere, and do it just in a subtle way that they keep receiving it versus, like, say, unsubscribe from the email.
Right. I mean, I love doing the text message newsletter. A lot of people too will say, well, I just moved here and I don't have friends or anybody to market to. One of the places that I go is my kids' sports, right? So even if it's just bringing a snack after a practice or a game and putting a little thing together with a Gatorade and a little tag, do that. I love giving to the teachers and staff at my kids' school. Like, I put together little school supply stuff or things for their classroom and just put my sticker on it, on the package, and I drop it off at the school for them to have, to constantly stay in touch without bothering them. I don't know. What do you do?
Well,
I
think what what I wanted to get out of you out of that, and then try to have you say it to our audience, is you can't be afraid.
Yeah, no, you can't. You have to let people. I'm telling you, I definitely had reservations with that when I got into the business. Is being a secret agent, right? Because you don't want them. But again, I think that goes back to building genuine rapport with people and staying in touch with them on a regular basis. That's not always about real estate. And then when you do ask them about real estate, they're not like, oh, the high school friend who contacted me after 10 years who wants to sell me this. I think if you are just being genuine and staying in touch with people around you and having those relationships, that when you do bring up real estate, it's not awkward and they don't get offended by it or think that you're pushing on them.
Have you found that some of these people maybe you haven't talked to in 10 years, but you think about them? It's just, everyone's life goes a different direction, and that reaching out and letting them know that you're a professional in the business, and that when they have a home transaction going on for themselves or any of their friends or family or that they know, that they're best to be working with you, because we have 74% of the agents who didn't even sell a home last year, who don't have a lot of experience. And if you're actively, you're a new agent and you're dug in and you're training and you're mentoring and you're doing all the right things and building your learning curve up in the real estate realm, that you should feel good to reach out to them, because you know a lot more than they do.
Yeah. And I've definitely had two different situations that you brought up there. One, past clients that I haven't talked to in a while, and I just recently sent out handwritten cards to everybody just to say, hey, as we step into the new year, I just wanted to tell you that I'm grateful that I got to work with you and help you buy or sell a house. And if there's anything you need in the future, please reach out to me. I just wanted to take this moment to reconnect with you. I know it's been a while. And so that's one way to kind of put your foot back in the door.
Yeah.
And then the second is, yes, I've had a lot of people, even my cousin who was buying a house in Texas, reached out to me. And this happens often with people in other states. They'll reach out to me and say, hey, Jena, I'm buying a house and this is what they said and this doesn't sound right. What's your opinion? What's your advice?
Right.
And be that stepping stone for them. But one of the things that I also market constantly is, if you know somebody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in any state, call me. Because I'm going to connect you with somebody who knows what they're doing, rather than you going to find somebody on your own.
All right. You've actually told some grit stories already, which I really appreciate, because I really think, agents go through that. Sometimes they feel like they're on an island. I think there's a lot of agents out there. I guarantee of the 74% that didn't sell real transaction last year, probably 99% of them feel like they're on an island, is why they, for whatever reason, did not, get engaged. But I talked about the LLC. I prepped you a little bit before, but the first question just being, and I asked this question for the audience. I've already prepped Jena, so she had her answers in her head here. I don't know what her answers are, but she knows what the questions are for this. But real estate agents go through a lot of grit. When you're in there, cleaning a toilet, mopping floors, it's August and, you have a house where someone's passed away, the family's not even in town, and you're having to take care of it and show it. So you might be out there doing some power washing or whatever to get this thing ready, and it's August in St. Augustine, and it's hot.
Yep.
And those are times where you're like, man, why am I doing, you know what I'm saying? Well, at least you hopefully got a sale going on there. But you're treacherous. There's many times real estate agents have fallen on their face because they did the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. You know, how do they get up? Or they feel they're doing the right thing, but aren't getting any results. Mm-hmm. But they keep pressing on. They keep swinging the axe, the pitchfork here. You have to love what you do. Mm-hmm. Tell us why you love real estate.
So many reasons. Mm-hmm. I definitely, the biggest thing for me is the customer relationships and turning clients into family and friends forever. It's definitely gotten me out of my shell. I would say I wasn't so much a people person growing up. I had a very small group of people, but it's definitely given me confidence to be happier and build relationships. And I can say that I truly have amazing people around me, which I never had before. I mean, of all different ages, of all different whatever. I've had clients who've taken my kids in and do Easters with them and Christmases. So definitely the relationship aspect of real estate. I love the freedom that comes with it. Yes, I have to get up at a certain time to take my kids to school, but if I want to go back home and take a nap, I can. Mm-hmm. Unless I have an appointment.
Schedule it in there.
I mean? The freedom to be able to, it's not a 9 to 5. So if my kids have a sports event or if I want to volunteer at their school, that I can make those arrangements to do that. The other realtors in the business, you know, the people you surround yourself with has been an amazing part of it. Being around like-minded people, being able to collaborate, right? Share ideas, build each other up, and just have that win-win mentality, I think is amazing to have. You know, you surround yourself with people who want to do better, right? Makes you better.
Right.
And so the opportunity to be able to do that rather than sitting behind a desk or in a cubicle all day where you're just doing the same thing over and over and you're not making yourself better. I feel like in real estate, there's plenty of opportunities to not only create wealth, but build your self-esteem, build who you are as a person, just become better in all different aspects.
Yeah.
And the money's not so bad either.
Yeah. Well, because I think people need to understand, sound, and just hearing that, there's feast and there's famine in sales, all sales. And in 2020, it was feast. And maybe you never, I imagine there was people didn't even take a vacation because they had been in the business long enough to understand that was feasting time. They had to run as fast as they can and do as much as they can because it was available at the time.
Yeah.
You know, stick the sign in the yard, multiple offers, move on to the next one as quickly, and hopefully you have several going on at the same time. And that's why you make a good living, because you've learned that when you say you have freedom, your freedom is the ability to know when you need to crank it up. Yep. And then when you have an opportunity, hey, I can go take a nap, let me pull it off, you know, type of thing. Which leads me into what you also said, and I think the analogy I want to use is you're the CEO of your business. Yes. You belong to a brokerage, but they're not calling you and say, hey, you need to come to the sales meeting, Jena. Why didn't you show up to the sales meeting? You know, that's not there. You are the CEO of your business. So when you're meeting with other CEOs, and I think if we look back, of course, you didn't work too much in corporate America, but I think you probably had some situations where you've seen this in corporate America where you see the bosses, you know, meet, or they're going on a retreat, all the sales managers or whatever. And you're like, man, I wish I was that. As a real estate agent, you are that. And you have to create the other collaborative, meeting other CEOs, other real estate agents, and collaborate on what's going on. So because you can't see every neighborhood and everything going on here, just here in Northeast Florida, you know, type of thing. So I think, you know, if you get a high off of that and calling your own shots is really what you're doing. Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to that.
Yes. Well,
for sure, because
you reap the biggest reward.
That accountability, and you don't have to be somewhere at a certain time. So it allows for that, like, do I want to go? Do I not want to go? So you definitely have to be self-motivated, and it's not always easy. Yeah. You know, because as a single mom, you know, all the obstacles that I just jumped through, you know, sometimes it's hard to find that motivation to do it when you know you don't have to. Right. Right? Right. But you got to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's the love. That goes back to the love part of it.
But it is part of, I enjoy what I do. It's not a chore to me. I love when I'm busy. And so that's kind of where that stems from, is wanting more and more and more to keep doing it, is because I truly enjoy what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. The laughter part. And you've mentioned some grit stories before, but one that comes to mind, it's in situations that probably have come up numerous times during your 20 years in the business, where now you laugh it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us something that's really set you back in the past, but now you're like, oh, this again,
Just I don't truly know if there's anything that's laughable. I mean, I've definitely had situations.
There's situations where you were just reminiscing about having a flashback about serving tables 20 years ago, and you woke up, you were probably laughing about it.
Yeah.
What are situations that you've had, in the past that really maybe even had you to tears, but now, and you laugh about it?
I have for sure had many experiences in this business where I've been in tears, where things just are not going the way it is, or you find out something and it's like, how do I have this conversation with my seller or my buyer? They're going to be so upset and I have to be the one to give it to them. There's been a lot of those.
Yeah, that comes up if it's not every transaction, it's 80% of the transactions, you might have to have that hard talk.
Yes, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
But you do it and then it ends up being okay.
Yeah.
Right? So
give us
I'm trying to think of a specific
no, that's good. Actually,
situation that's happened.
Let's drill on that, because I think we got on something that's really good. Now, because this happens a lot, you've been doing this a while. How do you prepare now for one of those tough conversations? What's your mindset? What do you like to do? Are you quick off the cuff, and as soon as you
Definitely not. So when I have a situation that I have to have a hard conversation with a seller, like say the buyer is terminating, or the buyer is terminating and they never deposited their binder and you're not getting it, you're not protected, things like that. I definitely take time to mentally prepare that conversation.
Yeah.
I used to be scared of it before. I would call my broker, I would call, whoever, give me some advice. How do I have this conversation? I don't necessarily have to do that anymore. I think I've gotten to a point where it is what it is. You have to take your feelings out of it. Yes, they might get mad at you. Yes, they might be upset at you, but the facts are the facts and they have to be said. And so you have to just bite the bullet and tactfully let them know what the situation is and not take it personally.
Yeah.
And handle it the way it needs to be handled. So.
And then, because you've done this numerous times now, when you finish that conversation, how do you feel?
So much better.
Yeah.
I think I definitely overstress the conversation and get myself worked up. But then once you do, then it was easier than you would think it would be. And yeah, you just feel so much better because it's done.
Well, I think you said something there. The facts are the facts.
Yeah.
And the place has got mold. It's got a title issue. They don't want to go. They don't want to make the repairs. Whatever it is that throws that off, and you need to call them and say, "Oh, they don't want to come down anymore. This is where they're going to be." I think right now negotiators are winning because they're good at keeping the deals together in a win-win situation, because they're having those heart-to-heart, eat the frog moments. Right?
Yep.
Get up in the morning and tackle that one thing that you're like, really don't like to do, but just get it out of the way, and you'll feel so much better, which is basically these conversations.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a situation right now where I just put a listing under contract, and it was 3 days of negotiating. The seller wants to sell. The buyer looked at the house twice. He loves it. He wants the house. But there was sometimes you don't always get to work with another great agent, right?
Yeah.
And so there was some whatever, and I think there was some personal feelings put in it with the other agent, and so I had to remind her that, listen, the buyer wants the house, your buyer wants the house, and my seller wants to sell, and so we need to keep it business related and do this, and so then she decided to bite back with some harder terms, which we didn't care for the seller side, but at the end of the day, you have to have that conversation with your seller. Listen, I know she hasn't been great to work with, but the buyer wants to buy and you want to sell. And yeah, these terms aren't perfect, but do I think it's a strong qualified buyer? Yeah, I talked to the lender. He looks good to go. So you can either walk away and lose the buyer or accept these terms that maybe aren't so great.
Yeah.
And know that it's going to make it to closing. And that wasn't an easy conversation to get, because I would typically negotiate. It was a financing period. They had the financing period up to the day of closing. No protection for the seller.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it. But
I don't say anything about those things as a lender side, but I do see 30 days for basically when it's conditionally approved, that they're conditionally approved. That means the only other things is some administrative stuff, the title, maybe the appraisal still has to come in. But as far as the borrower is concerned, they're good. And they should have that within 7 to 10 days.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it was more of like a personal thing on the agent side rather than whatever. And so I don't want my seller to lose out just because. And so it wasn't a fun conversation to have.
Check the ego at the door.
Yeah.
Realize, again, another subject. I just remember, Sarah Gentry, who I had on the other day, just talking about as the agent, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, your goal is the same. You have two people that one wants to buy and one wants to sell. You need not to get I don't want to go down in $1,000. Did you ask your client whether they'll drop $1,000 to get out of this house in the next 30 days?
She was sending us terms
over nickels.
I was presenting to the seller,
right,
and then got him to agree, but she never discussed them with the buyer.
Oh,
right. So then, but
I think that actually happens. I think that when I see angst between agents or hear the stories like you're telling me here, that is the commonality of it. You got this new agent who thinks they're like, and I don't want to say the broker or, like a sports agent negotiating for their athlete or something. Yeah. And this is like, hey, this is what they want. You're really just a conduit, but advising, okay, we can ask them for $1,000 in repairs, but if they say no, are you willing to still move forward? Okay, I'll ask them. Let's see what they do. Yeah. Well, they came back at $500. Good. Let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The egos get involved, and I don't understand that part of it. Consistency. What do you feel? And I always ask this because I believe, especially you've been in it 20 years, it's probably evolved. But what do you feel that you are doing? I know your past clients, we talked about that kind of stuff, but what are you doing, whether it's, personally or just a routine that you have where it's daily, weekly, but something you're kind of religious to, but doing consistently in your business that you feel is important? Not only maybe it could be for your mindset or is getting you new clients, and it's wide open there, but what does you think is you're doing consistently yourself that moves your business?
If I'm being honest, I'm probably not the most consistent person ever, but I'm working on it. I would say probably the one thing that I do that keeps me focused and in the business is every morning when I get up, I go on MLS and I check the hot sheet. And I think that mentally sets me for the day of this is your job, this is real estate, and now you need to do all the things you need to do. Every Monday, I send any active sellers a Monday market update. Even though I'm talking to them throughout the week, they know they have showings, they know they have feedback, they know what's going on. I send kind of like a recap. And I think that is something that helps my business as well because
it gets you engaged, gets you focused.
Checking I don't have a great database right now. I need to, or not a database, but a CRM. I need to work on that. But I do I'm old school, so I have everything on like Excel. But pulling that up every day and making sure if anybody has a home anniversary or if anybody, anything that's going on, if I have an inspection coming up or a deadline coming up. And I would say that's probably the stuff that I'm most consistent on is making sure that I'm checking those boxes, getting everything that's a priority done each morning first thing. You set yourself a little checklist? The boxes. I don't really have a checklist. It's just kind of something that I habitually do. Yeah.
Making it more of a routine that these things are knocked out before 10 o'clock or whatever.
When people get out of bed, right, the first thing you do is you open your Facebook or whatever. Mine is I open my Gmail, I check out my emails, then I go to the hot sheet, then I go to the Excel sheet. And that's just kind of what starts my day consistently to keep me where I need to be. Because if I don't do that first thing, then I'm probably not going to do it all day.
All right. Being a lender, this is a new segment. The last couple episodes I've been doing. What are because I think some agents on an over focus on the lending part.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing agents sign up to be loan officers, but they're not really, and they don't understand that they're going to get themselves in trouble if they are not doing something. That's a big, anyone listening right now and a mortgage guy saying, hey, you should get your NMLS number and that way I can pay you. Well,
My dad's
there's
been
more
trying
to it.
to encourage me
Yeah.
to be a lender. And I'm like, I don't want to mix them.
Well, the thing is, I think what's going on is it's the referral, and they're going, oh, okay, since you have a license, just like someone referring you business, if they have a license, you can, spiff them back, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is you're not reading the law, and you're not going in there and going, oh, if I'm going to be a mortgage loan officer and actually get something from this deal, I have to do something.
Right.
And it's not just saying, hey, I've got a buyer and then hand it over to a true loan officer. So I think there's going to be a cleaning house of that soon, because I'm seeing it being pushed by some major people, and we know you put enough people in a pool, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So my point was, so you have some that gets overly involved, almost like, they get a little bit of knowledge and they start talking too much. You've got the agent in the moderate agent, which I think is the ideal agent, who knows how to ask a couple basic questions like, hey, where's your down payment coming from? How much are you actually going to put down? Or, they always, just pop out the question. Is there any issues with the credit that we need to know before I refer you to a loan officer that they need to know about before we do? Maybe, just some general open-ended conversational questions that a real estate professional have. And then you have the others on the other end that, they don't even want to say anything to the client. Yeah. They're like, did you call lender yet? Whatever. In your career, I mean, you've dealt with, many loan officers, and so forth. What, as a real estate agent, talking to myself or any mortgage person listening, maybe we'll cut a good reel from this. What are you looking for? And it may not just be the loan officer, it might be your inspector, but these people that are there to support you. Right. And what is the ideal relationship that you're looking for there? Because I think there has to be a relationship to truly, because all of us could grow together. Yeah.
So I definitely have my preferred lenders, home insurance, inspectors, and I've been with most of them probably for 8-9 years now. I always refer them to my customers, but I also tell my customers, you can use anybody you want to. I just highly suggest that you get reviews on anybody that you use. Look them all up. You pick who's best for you. But what's most important to me, and the reason that I have the relationship with the vendors that I do, is communication. I pride myself on communicating with my clients. Like, I'm never going to hide something from you or not tell you what's going on or keep you in the loop. I want to stay in touch with you throughout the whole process. I'm not going to be overwhelming, but I want you to know what's coming next. I'm big on checklists with all my customers, so we know what the plan is. And so when I'm referring my customers to a lender or an inspector, I want to make sure that they are going to communicate back, right? So you know what's going on. I don't ever want to refer a customer to somebody and then that person doesn't call them back or never gets back to them or takes 3 days to call them back. I want to make sure that the people that I'm referring are available to answer your questions. They're going to thoroughly communicate with you and build that relationship with you along the way. So that's something that's important to me. It's knowing that they're going to be there to answer questions and help my clients.
When I look at the numbers across, I go in there, dabble, I can see numbers, and I can actually see who's doing their lending for them. Most agents, in my opinion, you can tell me because you're elbow to elbow with them every day in the office or whatever, I think have a true failure to commit. And I'm leading this to the point of what you have found a benefit, as I had Rick Gonzalez, he's out in the Panhandle with Real Brokerage. And he told me, we were talking, he's like, yeah, I've been with my loan officer for 8 years. I'm like, wow, I can look across there and I can see some of the best real estate agents in there, and they've got ones next to every loan officer. It means that, and I don't even know if they actually referred them. That's just the loan officer that did the deal. But as a professional in your business, the benefit that you found by having these long-term relationships, with it has actually improved your business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely think so. And because I've had it's like a comfortable thing. Just knowing that you're in good hands and knowing that I'm referring to you to somebody that I can trust and I know is going to do the right thing and give good business and give good customer service.
Well, as an agent, I mean, and I think I read from that, in a sports analogy or military analogy, however you want to call this, they have your back.
Yeah.
They're looking after you, they're calling you before they're calling the customer, should there be some, even good or bad news. Hey, if it's just hey, I need a piece of paperwork, text, hey, I asked so-and-so for an updated bank statement. Okay. So if they call you, you already know, right? You're prepared for those conversations. And I don't know if there's just a disconnect, but I think agents could just go so much further by actually creating some of these relationships and the creative ways of market service agreements or whatever to help them market and team up. I see a lot of people, whether they're doing postcards or whatever, it's like, the lender would probably pay for half of that. Right. One of the things I've been doing recently is someone's got a listing. Hey, let's pick 300 or 400 homes in the immediate, because we know people, tell their family and friends, come move next to me. My neighborhood's the greatest. Hit everybody in that neighborhood. This home is for sale and you might want to tell your friends about it. Type of thing.
And so, and my vendors that I've connected with, I like to do once a year a big customer event. So last year I did it at the office and had, maybe it was Chipotle, I don't know, I had a taco bar.
Right.
I had a frozen margarita machine, bounce houses, crafts.
Yeah, and
so
they can help you out with that.
The year before that I did it at the bowling alley.
Right.
Packed the place. It was a great event, but my lenders, my insurance company, my inspectors, they all chipped in, had a big banner, had everybody's advertisement, but they help in with those big, costly events to help each other.
You can make it's better when they're there year after year.
Yeah.
And I think we're agents, you can call people, which I have had people call me and say, hey, will you you'll be a sponsor at my gala. Did you send me a referral?
Yeah.
No, I haven't got one deal from you. How can I turn around and ask my bank to be a sponsor here? That's a tough question. But if you're regularly giving business, the give becomes greater.
Yep.
And then more easier for you. All right, enough of that subject. Let's finish up with this. What do you think? I'm going to drop the three things. We talked a lot of different things that you did, and I think people need to, go in and dig out of the show some things that they might take from you directly. But obviously the subject of the day, and I think from what I heard, even some past experienced agents, good agents, fell out of the business this past year because of our, the NAR, National Association Realtor thing, but the buyer broker agreement. Were you doing buyer broker agreements before August?
Yes and no.
Okay. Just turn that on the situation.
So when I was originally licensed in Georgia, we absolutely did a buyer brokerage with every buyer. Also different is your single agent in Georgia or your transaction in Florida. So that was a new thing for me to figure out. I'm like, no, I represent the seller. No, we represent the transaction. Right. But so no, I had a couple customers sign a buyer brokerage agreement, but it wasn't something that I typically pushed on them before. But I haven't had any issues with it. Right. I haven't had any issues.
What's your mindset going into that conversation, though? Because and the reason, and the background of this question is what I want to drive out of you for the listeners is it's an opportunity for you to tell them about
what you're doing.
What you're doing. And because the rumor that I'm getting around is a lot of agents are saying they're actually making more money now because, and I believe it's because they're taking the time to explain to that buyer, hey, these are all the things to do, and this is why I need this much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the conversation that I basically go into them is most people are aware of the settlement. And so I say, hey, per the new rules,
it's a great way to enter
it. Right? There's nothing crazy about it. Let's go over it. Let's talk about it. And I haven't had any pushback from it. I think if you're upfront and honest and you just explain the situation, I haven't had any issues with it. Also haven't had any issues with my sellers offering a full 6% commission. Yeah. Do they question it? Oh, but I heard that we don't have to do. Well, of course. But here's why we should. And
now, because you're taking that time, do you feel it's actually improving the transaction as far as?
Yes. I think they definitely have a better understanding now where it probably wasn't a discussion before. I mean, when I sit down with my buyers, I let them know, and I have a whole home buying process and a checklist because that's my favorite thing. So they kind of know what the process is and what I'm doing for them going into it. But yes, I do think it has opened a door for extra communication for both buyers and sellers.
I think agents are handling that. I think from what I understand, because I'm not totally privy just to some crosstalk on, you're talking to your seller and you're saying, hey, this is why we need to have budgeted X a percent or dollars for the buyer's agent. If the buyer's agent calls you and says, hey, we're interested in coming over and seeing the house, do you have any, they have anything set aside for the buyer broker? Or are you like, yeah, it's X amount? Or do you say, make me an offer? Because I've heard both.
Darn it. I tell them that it's 3%.
So you just
Gosh,
lay it out there.
Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should say, yes, we're offering one. Just ask.
Well,
put it in your offer.
I kind of actually, I mean, if you think from a sales standpoint, hey, they've budgeted up to this, so you know that number. Or you're using 3. We'll say 3 bananas, right? We'll be whatever.
I guess I felt like it was more enticing. Like, yes, we're offering a 3%. They're like, we're going to that house, right? Rather than like.
Well, it's kind of, to me, it's you're budgeting 3. You tell the buyer's agent, well, just make the offer. Well, if they're smart, they've already talked to their buyers and say, we're going to ask them for 3.
Right.
And they should already be asking that, and then there should be just a total laydown. Right. But occasionally, there might be something where you're negotiating. Maybe you have to do some staging and send all this extra money or whatever, and maybe you're only going to get 2 out of this because maybe what they owe on the mortgage, and they've only been in the house a short time or whatever. They don't have a lot of equity, so that percent might be a difference there to where and then it causes. But I think I guess it's a win-win either way.
So
it depends on how you look at
a situation kind of. So I had a seller who was offering 6%, but the buyer's agent did not ask me. So she sent over a compensation agreement for 2%. So then I asked my broker, does that mean I get 4? Because we put in the listing agreement 6. But I think yes. I think the answer is yes. But I couldn't do it. I felt bad. Well, and I love my sellers and I want the best for them, so I took my 3.
But what holds you? I don't know the legalities of it. What's the possible wow situation for your seller? Did you go back to him and say, "Hey, I asked you for 6, which I was going to split 3-3, but they only asked for 2. So I'm going to give you the 1%." Yeah.
That's basically how it went.
Yeah. That's a wow situation. Yeah. I think as a buyer's agent, I think you're crazy to be under asking.
Yeah.
You're leaving money on the table for yourself. Yeah. 100%. I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. I had a great time.
This was a great conversation. I think a lot of people got to know you, and there were some real tips in, I want to say personal development, but again, it's not that it's rocket science. But if you wanted, I think if anyone listening right now, if they want to dig deeper, to reach out to you,
Absolutely.
What does your newsletter look like? Whatever that question is.
I'm always happy to share marketing ideas, show you my pop-bys, show you my newsletter, show you what I do. I'm always willing to collaborate. Like I said, I don't see agents as competition. I feel like I have my sphere and my past clients and enough people around me that is going to fill my tank. So
I know what I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you started off as a transaction coordinator. Now you're doing some of these marketings, which take time. Do you have someone helping you with that?
Not right now.
You're doing everything. Okay. So for the listeners on here, and I'm going to tell Jena afterwards, one of the great things about doing the podcast, and your episode 253, I've gotten to know that some of these ladies who have become successful, Sam at My Op Suite, who's got a really successful transaction team. Actually, they'll do all of your back-end operations if you want them to, or you can a la carte, what you want out of them.
I need social media help.
Yeah. But I know other people that will do the newsletter, so forth. I can put you in contact with, where they really personalize it. They get to know you. They interview you and how you want it, so it looks like it's coming from you, kind of like AI.
Right.
But they're using that so they could take that off your plate. Because that it does drain you. And what happens is all of a sudden, when time comes into a crunch, you're like, let me do the news later. Yeah, let me do the later. Next thing you know, you're not doing it anymore. So to reach out to anyone listening, if you want a referral on that, to talk to people that are doing it out there and they are good at it and they have a background and a resume of success and working with some of the top agents in town. So appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This may be it for today's episode of Real Estate Excellence, but we both know your pursuit of excellence doesn't stop here. To connect with the best of the best and really take your skills to the next level, join our community by visiting TracyHayesPodcast.com, where you'll meet more like-minded individuals looking to expand their inner circle and their personal experience. That's available at TracyHayesPodcast.com.